What's up guys, Lvladen here, and today I'm coming at you with an 11.1 Season 2 of the War Within Red Paladin PvP guide. A couple things I want to talk about first. If you are starting out in the beginning of the season, right now we are stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I'm talking about our hero talents. Right now there is a bug with Sun's Avatar, and this is as of March 12th. Sun's Avatar will randomly not work at all. And I'm not entirely convinced that there isn't a bug with Hammer of Light right here. Now, Hammer of Light either is one, scaling horribly with the increased health pools, or two, some modifier is missing from this ability, because on PvP dummies, it hits for about 3.7 million. On players, it's hitting for about 1.5, 1.6 million. This could be for a number of different reasons. One, versatility scaling up. Two, something is scaling wrong with our abilities here, or three, the ability is bugged. I don't know what's going on, and I hope it's addressed soon, either buffed or something, because I really enjoyed Templar last patch, and right now I would not touch it with a 10-foot pole. But the alternative is Herald of the Sun actually feels really good when it functions correctly, but if you're out there paying attention to your damage, paying attention to the beams are not coming. The beams are not coming. And I'll show a clip right now on the screen where I Wake of Ashes and there's a Dawn Light on the target. I have my Crusade and there's just no beams, there's no damage. And they buffed Sun's Avatar this patch. This ability will crank, but it just doesn't go off sometimes. So remains to be seen what's going on there and with Templar. But for now, even though there is the bug with Sun's Avatar, I do recommend Herald of the Sun, because when it does work correctly, and it sometimes does, it feels good. Now, Rhett recently got a handful of damage buffs, and to be quite honest, I don't know too much about that yet, like if it really is going to make a big difference or not. I played a bunch of 2s, a bunch of 3s. Things felt relatively the same. I felt very low on damage, but again, that could be because of all the bugs with the hero talents right now. As for talents themselves, both on the Paladin and Retribution side, if you'll notice, I'm no longer running Seal the Crusader. This got nerfed by 50%. Flash Shield got buffed, but also Selfless Healer plus Light Celerity. I'm really not a fan of that. Actually, I'm going to switch out right now. I was recommending it earlier, but I no longer am. We also lost a bunch of PvP talents, or not a bunch, we lost 3, I believe. Excuse me. We lost Lawbringer or Reckoning and Luminescence, but Luminescence kept the name and just got reworked into an entirely different spell. I'm actually going to talk about the PvP talents mostly, because that's kind of what we change. Everything else is pretty static here. Blessing of Sanctuary, you always play this ability no matter what. In all PvP contents, BGs, arenas, whatever it is, this is our best PvP talent. Outside of that, it kind of depends. So if I was fighting a melee cleave, so 2 melee DPS, imagine like another Ret Warrior or Enhancement Shaman Warrior, or whatever other double melee comp out there, I would most likely either play Searing Glare and Hallowed Ground if it's a Death Knight or something like that, or I would play Searing Glare and Luminescence. There is a third mention, which could be Spreading the Word, but I really try to make this talent work, and it just is not worth it. A 30% wall for 6 seconds with a 5-minute cooldown is horrendous. And we also already have Unbound Freedom, so the freedom aspect of Spreading the Word is kind of it's kind of null. It doesn't really mean much. Outside of that, you can play Spellbreaker. This does a lot of damage when you do play it into casters. It doesn't proc off dots, from my understanding. It only procs off from like instant cast spells or hard casted spells, like single target spells, not every single tick of damage over time effects. I would likely play something like Spellwarding and Spellbreaker. Outside of that, there are, I believe, 1 optional talent that we have right now, and that is either switching between Improved Judgment and Boundless Judgment, or I guess 2, because you can also have the option of Improved Blade of Justice and Holy Blade. The only thing that I recommend is you don't play Improved Blade of Justice and Improved Judgment at the same time. Either pick one or the other, or the alternative is you can play both Boundless Judgment and Holy Blade. The playstyle is ultimately up to you, but I recently started playing Improved Blade of Justice with Boundless Judgment again, because of the recent buff to Blade of Justice. Now, I actually might swap it back to Holy Blade, but as far as Improved Judgment and Boundless Judgment, this one is really on the player, like kind of what do you want. I do think with the 4-set bonus that we'll talk about in a few moments, Improved Judgment might be worth it, but not yet, not yet. Okay, outside of that, we are going to jump over to the gear section now. All right, now to talk about gearing. As far as gearing goes, it's pretty similar stat priority to last season. Versatility is really good for us, and then mastery, then haste, and then finally crit. Early season gearing is going to be a bit different than later season gearing. So right now, what I'm doing on week 2 of the season is I have currently my 2-set, and I have my 2-set on my chest and my my gloves right here. Now I use my bloody tokens to buy the bloody token chest, and then I converted it to the chest piece, and then I got 1600 in arena, and what that does is it gives you a little item that allows you to gain another charge on the catalyst, and I use that to convert to my gloves here. So I have the 2-set pretty early in the season. After that, I did my BG quest. I got my 9 free heraldries. So in the beginning of the season, you either win your first BG and you get the quest, or you win 4 arenas or 4 skirmishes, and that allowed me to craft my boots. And I used the remaining heraldries plus 1 that I bought from Conquest to craft double versatility mastery rings. Now I embellished to the pieces right here with the focusing elemental focusing lens, and I do think at the moment elemental focusing lens is better than Ascension early on. Ascension also, I believe, did not receive any scaling buffs to the embellishment itself, but actually, Focusing Lens did. So Focusing Lens might even be better late season, but I'm going to test this out again when we finish getting up the gear. So next week, I'm going to get my Conquest weapon from the 2500 Conquest achievement, and then I'm going to buy my Conquest helm. And then it's going to take a couple weeks after that to get enough catalyst charges to convert both the pants and the helm to the tier. And in that in-between week, I'm likely going to just start buying off pieces like my neck and my belt here. But for the most part, gearing remains the same. I do believe I'm going to run the 4-set. I really did enjoy the 4-set testing on the PTR. The downside is we do kind of lack a lot of versatility. So as we get to the 4-set in like the next 4 weeks from now, I believe, I will likely replace the rings again with the Conquest rings, and then embellish a crafted piece of gear for my shoulders for my second focusing lens piece. Outside of that, I don't know. I might keep 1 ring versatility mastery and then get the Conquest ring for the second ring, because that will be even more versatility and mastery. But it's a tough call. There's also a chance that I experiment with haste, but don't copy me. If you look at Check PvP, I don't recommend copying my haste experiment, because that's all it's going to be, just an experiment with haste, and I'm going to do that over the next week or so on a couple of my alt-red paladins. If it's insane and it's nutty, I will definitely share it with you, but I don't foresee that being the case yet. It would likely have to be paired with like some crazy 4-set proc bonuses, and we can't test that yet. All right, with gearing out of the way, and I'll just mention enchants and gems. Just get the versatility wherever you can, and the masterful sapphires wherever you can. I was experimenting with the Determined Bloodstone, but I'm going back to precog. There's no reason to play Determined Bloodstone. It does literally 0 damage. You're better off taking precog. So when you play Searing Glare and Repentance, maybe you fake a kick and you get the CC immunity. So yeah. All right. Now with gearing out of the way, let's talk about the rotation. So the Herald rotation is actually very simple. You can do one of 2 things. You can do the old Templar style opener, or you can just send a Judgment and then a Wake of Ashes. My current favorite opener looks something like this. Depending on how fast I want to get the opener, I will Judge into a Wake of Ashes, hard to the off target, and then just start spamming Final Verdict, Divine Toll, Final Reckoning, Final Verdict, Judgment, Final Verdict, Hammer, Wrath, Final Verdict, Hammer, Wrath, Final Verdict, Blade of Justice, Final Verdict, and so on and so forth. You do a lot of damage that way, and it does feel pretty powerful when, you know, when everything doesn't bug out and Sun's Avatar actually works. Like, look how much damage Sun's Avatar did right there. Now imagine that this is just not there. Like 9% of your damage is missing. Actually, potentially even more, because this cleaves onto other targets. So, yeah, tough loss when you get the Sun's Avatar bug. But yeah, I don't know. Hopefully it gets fixed soon. You really have just two things to prioritize as Herald of the Sun, and the first is getting your Wake of Ashes on cooldown absolutely immediately, as fast as you can, while trying to hit all of your Final Verdicts into Greater Judgment windows and or Final Reckoning windows. Now with 11.1, there is something that you should note, is that Final Reckoning hits very hard now. It got a 75% buff during the patch. And with that comes the ability to actually kind of, 1-2 punch someone with a couple stacks of Crusade and the Final Reckoning. It's not like you always want to pre-Final Reckoning all of your goes. So we really have a couple different ways that we could do it. The old way was Judgment, Blade of Justice, then Final Reckoning, then Wake of Ashes. But at this point in the rotation, it really doesn't matter if you send that Final Reckoning before or after. I've been experimenting with that first opener that I just showed you guys, where I do it at the 7-stack Crusader mark, and so far I feel like that's what I usually have been doing. But if you want to do the old opener, that too is perfectly fine. I just want to emphasize that you can actually pretty significantly buff the damage of Final Reckoning with your Crusade. Like, for example, that Final Reckoning I did right there was 1.2 million non-crit, but the Final Reckoning that we did before that, if we can actually pull it up on the dummy right here, the Final Reckoning was 1.35 million. So it is possible to get a buff on that Final Reckoning, and that one was with only 7 stacks of Crusade. So it can definitely pump if we set it up. All right. I'm going to drop all my macros below if you guys want to see my macros. As far as macros go, I use the same macros that I've always used in all my guides. Copy paste them, replace them with my name. I have mouseover macros. I have party 1 and party 2 macros. I'm going to make a separate video again on my add-ons, but if you really are desperate for my add-ons right now, my last Ret PvP guide, which I will link in the description of the video, has my add-ons. Nothing's changed, essentially. Has my add-ons and Weakauras. So, yeah, I hope this video was helpful. I don't think Ret is in the best of spots right now. I mean, it could be, and it might just not be because of the bugs, but even in the matches where Sun's Avatar is working correctly, and if I was fighting actual competent players, I was doing significantly less damage than everyone else of equal or greater skill than myself. So I do think that there's still room for buffs on Ret. And all right, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you next time. Peace.